The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hi, this is Jennifer Schaus, and we are coming to you live from Washington, D.C. today. We are winding up week 5 in our webinar series. Thanks, everybody, for joining us today. Just as a side note, next week we are covering the 8A certification, teaming and partnering, winning set-aside contracts, and simplified acquisitions. Today we're covering GSA schedules. All of the webinars are complimentary and they are recorded. You can find the full schedule on our website under the webinar section, and all of the recordings are posted there by close of business the same day. A little bit about us: we're based in downtown DC, provide various services for both product and service companies, domestic and foreign. The services range from market analysis reports, capability statements, 8A certification, GSA schedule assistance, contract compliance, and administration. We do host various networking events and seminars throughout the year. You can find them on our website, or you can sign up for our newsletter, which will keep you abreast of everything that we're doing and some additional events and information about the government contracting industry. A little bit about me is on this slide, giving you some background as far as my career. I worked with Dun & Bradstreet, which is what brought me to Washington, D.C. in 1998. Started my own business about 10 years ago, helping government contractors, again, with various services that were mentioned on the previous slide. So today we are covering the GSA schedule, and the purpose of this kind of came to me based on a lot of inquiries that we get from companies who want to get on the schedule. But once we talk to them about the terms, conditions, requirements, and everything that we're going to discuss today, many times they decide that it's not right for them, or it may not be right for them at that particular time, but maybe 2 or 3 years down the road it is. So let's get started. What is a GSA schedule? It is not required to do business with the government. It's really only a marketing tool, or what I will call a vendor shortlist. It's one way that the government can purchase from you, but it's not the only way, and it's not the only contract vehicle that's out there. If you are lucky enough to get onto the schedule, initially it's a 5-year contract, and it has 3 5-year renewable periods. So in essence, from start to finish, it's a 20-year contract. At the end of the 20 years, you are able to download a new solicitation and apply to get back onto the schedule. So just a note there, unlike the, say, 8A certification, where once you are done, you cannot apply to get 8A certified again, the GSA schedule you certainly can, and you can hold multiple contracts. It's sometimes referred to or falls under the category of multiple award schedule, or MAS. This just, it means exactly what it says. There are multiple awards, 2 companies on the schedule, and approximately about 18 to 20,000 companies hold GSA schedules. It is also considered a federal supply schedule, or FSS. And most of what is required to get onto the schedule is going to be centered around your pricing. So GSA always wants to be your lowest price customer. Some benefits of the schedule: it makes it easier for the government to purchase from you. Once you're on the schedule, you're going to start getting quote unquote special RFPs and RFQs that are sent to you via GSA eBuy. And these will be specific to your schedule and your special item number, which that special item number further identifies what your product or your service is. Companies that are on the schedule, they typically are viewed a little bit more seriously and probably have some experience in government contracting. So it gives you some credibility. Government's risk adverse, so it certainly kind of helps with that hurdle. And it will also limit competition as well. So what I prepared here is a litmus test, and the first part is going to be the requirements. So the requirements are going to be broken down into both the pre and post award. The pre-award we'll talk about in a moment. The other piece is, excuse me, marketing and market size, and then your profitability and ROI. So we're going to break each of these sections down. So the first one is the requirements. do you meet the pre and post award requirements? Pre-award administrative, you'll need 2 full years of financials. Excuse me, that's going to be your balance sheet and income statement, and preferably showing no losses. You will need 2 full years of decent sales coming in, so this is really not a contract vehicle for startup companies. The technical piece of the proposal will include 2 projects that you've worked on within the last 2 years for each of the SIN numbers, those special item numbers that you are proposing, and that's for service companies. If you are providing IT services for Schedule 70, you'll actually need 3 projects. And what you have to provide there is going to be a copy of the contract, along with a 4-page narrative describing how that contract is similar in scope to that special item number. These can be government contracts, they could be commercial, they can be nonprofit, but again, they do need to be within the last 2 years. You also need 6 customer references. Open Ratings is a company that will conduct an independent survey that will cost you about, I think it's $200 or $300, but you'll need 6 customer references, hopefully happy customers that can respond to the survey about your customer service, about your pricing, about your products and services. On the pricing section, or within the pricing section of your proposal, you'll need to demonstrate that your prices are fair and reasonable, and that you're offering GSA your lowest price. You'll need to have a price list, meaning your commercial price list, and demonstrate that you have sold these products or services in the past. Typically, that's done through an invoice. You'll also need to show that your rates are competitive. GSA typically will conduct a rate analysis. Oftentimes, they are now flipping this back to the contractor, which, in my opinion, is actually a good thing and something you should do before you decide to pursue this schedule. And we'll talk about this in just a moment. And I've got a resource, which is a website that I listed there, which is the GSA calculation website, calc.gsa.gov, and we'll look at that in a moment. So we're still in this looking at the requirements, and so post-award, you'll need to bring in at least $25,000 per year for each of the schedules that you hold. If you only have one schedule, then it's $25,000 per year that you need to bring in. Currently, of the 18 to 20,000 vendors that are on this schedule, 63% of them have 0 sales through their schedule. What that means is GSA will then cancel or revoke your schedule, which is not a good thing. So this is why we're running this webinar today, to make sure that you know in advance, or that you have the propensity to sell through your schedule. Now, you may have a $5 million contract with the Navy, but if they're not purchasing from you through the schedule, GSA doesn't care. That $25K, again, needs to go specifically through your schedule. You're also going to be required to post your GSA price list on the GSA Advantage website, along with your terms and conditions. And that is a website, gsaadvantage.gov, very similar to Amazon, that buyers can go on to search for anything from IT services to bulletproof vests. Also, every quarter, you'll need to report and pay an industrial funding fee, which is sometimes referred to as the IFF. This is 0.75% of your GSA schedule sales. If you have 0 GSA schedule sales for the quarter, you report nothing. If you have $100,000 for the quarter, then you'll report 0.75% of $100,000. Again, that 0.75% is only of your GSA scheduled sales. TDR is transactional data reporting, which is starting to take over the IFF. So certain schedules right now are have applicability with TDR. Eventually, I think everybody will kind of be going that direction. Also, post-award, you need to monitor the PRC, which is the price reduction clause. And this means that GSA should always be your lowest price customer. So if you're selling widgets for $10 on your GSA schedule and you gave ABC Company a rate of $9.98, bells and whistles should be going off on your accounting system. And GSA should then be notified, and you'll have to reduce your GSA rate to that same amount. Many companies, some of the larger ones, have actually gotten into trouble, millions of dollars, with this PRC price reduction clause. GSA comes out for audits. Many times these are actually conducted online. They call it a CAV, a customer assisted visit. It functions more like an audit, where they're going to be looking at financials. They're going to be ensuring that nobody's getting a lower price, make sure that you are reporting and paying the industrial funding fee, that 0.75%, and other information about your schedule. Modifications and renewals. The modifications, you want to change a price, you want to add a product, add a service, add a special item number, or sometimes GSA will initiate modifications. Those will take time, effort, and obviously money. Renewals, at the end of every 5 years, you have the option to renew your contract with GSA as long as you have met all of the requirements and have taken care of all the reporting and have been compliant. Once you're on the schedule, you will still need to write proposals, so there is a time and level of effort associated with that. And it's also a myth that sometimes people think they're on the schedule and therefore they don't need to write proposals. The second piece here, the litmus test, is the marketing and the market size. Do your customers even purchase from the schedule? And you can ask them. Many companies will have the mentality of, let's get on schedule and then we'll go out and market the schedule. But I don't know that that's always the best idea, especially considering that 63% of the vendors have zero sales. So the schedule is just one of many ways that the government purchases. This slide here is just showing you some of the other options. And this was taken from a market analysis report that we conducted for a customer last year, showing how their services were purchased. So you can see the breakdown there. And it's important, I think, to take a look at something like this before you decide to pursue or not pursue the schedule. Okay, so kind of based on that, piggybacking off that last slide, how does the government purchase? Well, it depends on the dollar amount, it depends on the market analysis, and all of this is going to be governed by the FAR, the Federal Acquisition Regulation, but I listed some of the options there on how the government purchases. So as far as contract vehicles, again, GSA is just one of many. You've got Navy Seaport E, NASA SOUP. Many agencies have their own contract vehicles. GSA, however, can be leveraged throughout all of the federal government, some state and local, and then also quasi-entities such as the World Bank, the Red Cross, IMF, IFC, Inter-American Development Bank, and some of the other entities that are similar to that. So are your rates competitive? Again, I was mentioning that GSA will kind of flip this market analysis back to the vendors that are applying to get onto the schedule, but I think it makes sense to conduct this before you decide to go down the path, because it does certainly take some time and effort to get onto the schedule. So before you decide to go down that route, you want to make sure that you are going to be profitable being on the schedule. So what GSA has done, I think, unfortunately, services have more or less become commoditized, and when that happens, quality is sacrificed. And with lower margins, you're going to need heavy volume, and 25K per year is not heavy volume. So you want to make sure that that you do have many customers that will purchase from you through the schedule. So this is a screenshot from the website that I mentioned, the calculation website from GSA, which is calc.gsa.gov. What we looked at here, we plugged in the job title project manager, which that would be a good example for today's webinar, just because it's a common job title across anything from IT to marketing companies, financial companies, architecture, engineering, and so forth. On the right-hand side, you can set various parameters. So we just went with bachelor's degree. Worksite can be, I'm just kind of going down the right-hand side. Worksite can be on-site, off-site. Business size can be large or small. The SIN and the schedule selection, I just kept that open just for today's conversation. So this shows here that the average project manager with a bachelor's degree, and these are based on companies that hold a GSA schedule, That average rate is $129 per hour. So I think it would make sense for anybody that's considering getting onto the schedule to go to that website, plug in your labor categories, fill in the parameters on the right-hand side, and make sure that you fall within the averages. So what happens is, if you decide this is a good route to take as far as the schedule, in this example, your commercial rate, let's say, is $200 an hour. For that project manager. Your most favored customer rate, this is most favored customer is going to be an entity or a category of companies, meaning all nonprofits, all state and local, something along those lines, all associations. That's the entity that gets your lowest rate. So let's say it's nonprofits. So anytime you deal with nonprofits, you give them a rate of $198 for your project manager. So you say to GSA, hey, we're going to give you a discount off of our most favorite customer rate. We'll give you $195 an hour. But as we saw in that last slide, the average rate for the project manager is $129. Well, what do you think GSA is going to say? No way, Jose. Why would they purchase all things being equal, why would they purchase or even allow you on the schedule at $195 an hour when they have probably 500 to 5,000 companies that they can get the project manager for at $129 per hour. So again, this is very important to conduct that rate analysis in advance. Again, this is going to be all things being equal with education, job responsibilities and function, number of years experience, and other parameters. So your post-award bidding through your schedule. Your GSA schedule rates are only a price ceiling, so a not to exceed rate. So keep that in mind. In this example, we used a commercial rate of $100 per hour. Your most favorite customer rate is $98. Let's say that's educational and state government entities. Your GSA approved rate was $95 because you gave GSA a discount off of your most favorite customer rate. So now you're on the schedule and you start getting the GSA e-buy notifications and you start bidding. Well, 99% of the time, the GSA vendors will be bidding at rates lower than their GSA approved rate. So you'll be coming in at perhaps at $92 an hour. So again, you really want to make sure that you're getting onto the schedule is still going to be profitable for you, that you're going to be able to meet that 25K sales quota, and that this is in your best interest. Some questions to think about. And these are all things that I mentioned throughout the presentation, so I'm not going to read them off to you. You can certainly read the slide here, but you want to make sure that it's in your best interest and that you are going to have customers that will purchase from you, but more specifically through the schedule. Some resources that we went through today, the Calc site, GSA Advantage, that's the one that's very similar to Amazon. You can search for your competitors on there or just plug in a job title or a product that you're selling. Very important, make sure you read the solicitation. That's going to have your terms, conditions, all the requirements. Those are updated sometimes throughout the year, sometimes several times throughout the year. So once you do decide to respond to this with an RFP, make sure that you are on the correct refresh number. One site that I failed to mention was this market analysis, SSQ. It stands for Schedule Sales Query. And this will allow you to drill down even further, getting more information about specific schedules, fiscal year comparisons, individual vendor results. So take a look at that as well. Some resources here that GSA provides, and these two pieces, the Pathway to Success and the Readiness Assessment, are actually required in your submission to GSA. They're found in the GSA Vendor Support Center, so VSC, Vendor Support Center. This will take you, the Pathway to Success is kind of an online training, but it is useful, I think, in advance of getting onto the schedule to go through that. The Readiness Assessment will require you to dig out some information from that ssq.gsa.gov site, which again is the Schedule Sales Query. But even just reading the questions on there will give you some things to think about, all of which were mentioned in today's presentation. So I just put this slide on here because I think making the decision to pursue the schedule, there's so much data that's out there, factual information. You can conduct analysis to determine if this is in your best interest or not. And be careful, there are some shady characters out there in all parts of the country trying to push GSA schedules on companies. It certainly does have its benefits. It's a great advantage. It shows credibility. It gives the government confidence and trust that you have been vetted. Makes it easy for them to purchase from you and a lot quicker. It eliminates paperwork on the government side because your rates have already been competed up front. But again, make sure that specific to your business that this is in your best interest. My contact information is here. Again, I thank you for joining us today. Again, next week we are covering the 8A certification, teaming and partnering, set-aside contracts, simplified acquisition. We have added a couple weeks to the webinar series. We now are going to have a total of 9 weeks. So this will go through the end of September. We'll put the full schedule on the website by next week. Thanks again for joining us.